Hello, welcome back, and thank you for tuning in here today. We're going to look today at reminders. A constant reminder is the title, and we're going to look at the reminders that we give our brother again and again, over and over, moment by moment, which are also reminders that we give ourselves. We're in chapter 10, section 3 of the text of A Course in Miracles. The section's entitled The God of Sickness, and that's a very interesting title. It's a very interesting title because it begs the question, the immediate question, what is the God of sickness? Well, we have many idols here in the world. I don't mean the golden calf. I don't mean worshiping a statue or something like that. I mean the things that we take to be our reality and put all of our faith and trust and confidence in that are not real. Of themselves, they're nothing. And that includes the physical body, which we take and assume to be us. It includes all of our stuff, all of our possessions, and our intangible things like social status and prestige. It includes the world itself. When we think that we're separate, when we think that this is our real home, we suffer. And not flattering to think of it this way at all, but we're worshiping the idols of sickness, decay, death. We're placing our trust, our faith, our confidence in illusions, which is backwards. It's upside down, and that is why we say that in clarifying our perception, which is what we're all about in studying and practicing this course, we're turning our perception right side up. It is upside down, it is backwards, and are you tired of it? When we're thinking about sickness, well, the Son of God, you, cannot be sick because God cannot suffer. You heard that, right? The Son of God cannot be sick because God cannot suffer. Verbal math? Anyone? Who, what, and where are you in truth? We're invited to really deeply consider that, because that is precisely what we neglect when we think we're our job title, when we think we're the size of our bank account, be it great or small, when we think we're our amassed debt, where we think we're our age or our social status or our gender or species. With all of our labels, we neglect truth. To the extent that the ego says, yeah, this is complete BS. Understand that it is the ego that's afraid. Expect this on the path. Expect extraordinary resistance. Understand that when it arises, it is the ego that wants you to go back to the way things were before you embarked on this thing called the spiritual path. And you can call that whatever it is. You can call it your walk. You can call it a quest, a journey, whatever you call it, the ego would love you to stop and abandon it and go back to whatever it was that you were doing before, which didn't satisfy you in the first place. Why would you go back to a way of thinking that brought you only pain and suffering, that you sought at some point to get away from and move beyond? You cannot be sick because God cannot suffer. He can suffer no loss, no lack, no pain, no scarcity. Here's something that's worth our deep consideration. Love cannot suffer because it cannot attack. God, love, same, cannot suffer because it cannot attack. It cannot attack. Love doesn't lash out in hatred. That's hatred that lashes out in hatred. Love does not condemn and judge. Hatred condemns and judges. Love unites. Hatred separates. Love does not attack. So our suffering is all a result of our thinking that we're separate. And because we're afraid of having thought we're separate, we run and hide. We continue to reinforce this supposed separation from God, which in truth is impossible. It's impossible that you be separated in any way from your source. Ideas leave not their source. Capital S. Capitalize that. Thoughts remain in the mind of the thinker. This is one of the central ideas and indeed themes in A Course in Miracles. Thoughts remain in the mind of the thinker. We're known here in the Course as the extension of God, the thought of God. Thoughts remain in the mind of the thinker. Thoughts remain in the mind of God. We are in the mind of God. We're in God. We're one with God. We've never left God. Who, what, and where are we? Truly, really, you know, and you have always known. Now, you may actively deny this. It's the ego voice saying, go back to the way things were. Turn this off. Turn it off. It's ridiculous. This guy is full of it. He doesn't know what he's talking about. No idea, no clue. No spiritual teacher knows what they're talking about. They're all just making this up. It's all fanciful. It has nothing to do with me at all, ever, anytime. I'm going to go run and hide. That voice will come up. Often, it's part of our learning process. Suggestion: recognize that and pay attention when that voice arises. And in that instant that you become aware of it and you recognize it for what it is, the ego, forgive it. Acknowledge its nothingness and look beyond it. The ego is nothing. There is no separation of any kind. So here in the world where there appears to be just that, lots and lots and lots of separation, we appear to be separate beings, and there appear to be 8 billion of us in this one artificial and random classification that we call a species. There appear to be 8 billion of us, plus countless other forms of life: insects, fish, birds, microscopic life forms, all kinds of things, where there appears to be multiplicity and multiple divisions and separation. Here you are, listening to the voice of our inner teacher, the Holy Spirit. That's who's doing the talking here. What you're looking at is a pixelated image on your screen. So something has been said here that you needed to hear, or if not yet, stick around, because it's coming. There's a reason why you're watching this amidst all of the other content out there on social media and the internet. Talk about multiplicity, right? So here you are. That's excellent. And not just because views are great, subscriptions are great. By the way, subscription arrow. Just saying. All that's great, but what's most important is the fact that you're here. You are listening to the call of our inner teacher that goes out to each and every one of us 24/7, all of the time. It is constant. The question in the present moment for all of us is, are we listening? And at some point you did, and you're doing it now. That is the highest and best offering you could ever give, by the way, your dedication and commitment to your practice. So let's talk for a couple of minutes here about what we really do here when we appear to be in this flesh and blood predicament with bills and stuff. Bills to pay, rent, mortgage, a light bill. Everything that passes for life here in this insane dream, which is very insane when you think about it. What do we do in it so that we may awaken to the truth of who we are? Well, it's all in our mind. And what we do is we do not reinforce the idea of sickness in our brother. We do not attest to it. Even if your brother believes that he is sick or suffering, our job here is to not reinforce that, but rather to extend love instead of judgment. When we judge our brother and condemn him, we're reinforcing sickness. Now, because there's no separation of any kind, it's all going on in our mind. So when we lash out and condemn, we're condemning ourselves. When we extend love, we're loving ourselves. When we forgive, we're forgiving ourselves. It only appears that we're forgiving our brother and all of the stuff that he's doing out there, all the havoc that they're wreaking out there. What we do is we don't reinforce his negative image of himself, and we instead show him love and remind him of who he is. We share the Holy Spirit with our brother, and we remind our brother of who he is. We remind him about the truth about himself. And as we remind our brother of the truth about himself, we remind ourselves of the truth about ourselves. It's very important. It's critical. This is what we do. This is why true forgiveness is the practical centerpiece of A Course in Miracles. And if you're new to this curriculum, if this is a new thing for you and you're wondering, why do I have to forgive? Well, this is why. It's how we wake up. It's how we completely alter our mind. We change our mind. We look beyond the surface level. This is a surface level. This is a pixelated image on your screen. Talk about surface level. It's nothing. It's an assembled collection of dots. How that works, I don't know. But I'm very grateful we have it so that we may communicate with one another. Part of the beauty of living in this thing that we call calendar year 2023 AD, that's made up. The Gregorian calendar, made up. This world, also made up. But here we are with these tools at our disposal to communicate. You have multiple tools at your disposal to communicate love to the Son of God, starting with the body and everything else in your life. What we do is we recognize our brother for who he is, and we remind him through extending love, through extending kindness, through showing up. How we show up matters. Calmly, joyfully, peacefully. We shine the light of truth to our brother. As he recognizes it, we recognize it in ourselves. We're loving ourselves. So would you rather love yourself or hate yourself and judge and blame and condemn yourself? So we remind our brother of his wholeness, and we remember God with him. That's what enlightenment or awakening is remembering, is remembering God. You remember yourself. So, questions always arise here on the path. This indeed is just part of it. It's what happens when we're doing deep self-inquiry that not only challenges the status quo, but it upends it completely rather than attempting to find solutions to our problems here in the world with tools of the world. We're recognizing that there is no world, that we're perfectly at home in God. It is a complete 180 in thought systems. And you're here and you're interested. Welcome. It's important for each and every one of us to understand that we cannot go back to the way things were before we set out on the path. That is not worthy of the Son of God. It's not worthy of you to go back to the judgment, the victim, the blame game. What we can do is to make what we refer to as progress here on the path. We have only the present moment, so let's extend love to our brother. This is how we do it. There is no separation of any kind. So we remind ourselves of that each time we extend love, each time we forgive. The ego does not want us to believe that we're doing this to ourselves, but we are. So you have the choice to awaken. And I hope that you make that choice today. All right. So, in reference to questions, they're more than welcome here. We've had a number of very, very good and thought provoking discussions right here on the comment thread on YouTube. So, if you have questions, please feel free to ask them. There is no such thing at all as a question that's dumb or too basic or too beginner-ish. In fact, if you feel the question is too beginner-ish, that is precisely the question that you should ask. And I'll tell you why. Number one, you'll get an answer. And there are other people out there in this world where there appear to be 8 billion of us. Inevitably, there's somebody else paying attention to the comment thread that needs to hear the response that you asked. So you will be doing someone else a favor, a tremendous favor that may completely alter the trajectory of this lifetime for them and may speed them along the path. You don't know. So I invite you to ask. There are people that have been studying this material for decades that need the answers to very basic questions. We all do, because as stubborn adult learners, all of us, we need to hear things over and over again, because the 975th time that you hear an answer to the very same question that you asked on day one may, in fact, be the time where it sinks in and you get it. And it changes the trajectory of your entire life, and your entire experience eliminates. Oh, you don't know. But when it happens, it's a beautiful thing. Now, subscriptions also are more than welcome. This is the subscription button here. It's that arrow in the corner of your screen. So if you click or hover over that, a prompt comes up that invites you to subscribe, and I invite you to do that. We have several videos here each week. Consistency, as always, is important in this practice, as it is in all aspects of life, actually. So spirituality is certainly no different. We're also on chapter 10 out of 31 in the text of A Course in Miracles, which does in fact mean there's a lot more to come and a lot more to discuss and a lot of forgiveness opportunities out there. So notice them and forgive, and I will see you again on the next video. Thank you for joining me.